Welcome to the Lindsay Hadley podcast show. I'm coming to you from the North Shore of Oahu, where weekly I interview some of the world's most inspiring people from business, philanthropy, and entertainment. I love collecting humans, and these are some of my favorites I've found along the way. This podcast is brought to us by Capita Financial Network.
Do you need help with the next steps of your financial plan? Think Capita. Capita is a financial network built around you. They have a team of financial advisors, CPAs, estate attorneys, Medicare providers, and Social Security experts to help you accomplish your financial goals. Call or schedule a complimentary consultation at 801-566-5058 or visit their website at capitafinancialnetwork.com. You can also check out their financial education podcast, The Financial Call, available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and YouTube.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Lindsay Hadley podcast show. Today, we have on our podcast, Matt Massucci, who is the founder and CEO of Hirewell. And he's going to talk a little bit about his experience as an entrepreneur, what it's like to find the world's best talent and pair them with the best companies, what he's learned on his journey that, as we know, for those of us who are entrepreneurs or have been investors in and supported and been enablers of entrepreneurs on their journey to success. It is not for the faint of heart, right, Matt?
Yeah.
Well, we're so happy to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. Excited to be on.
So, Matt, I'd love to start with just hearing a little bit about you. You're based in Chicago. What got you in this industry? Like, tell us your journey. Where did you start out in life, and what brought you here today?
Yeah, I would say it's never really a straight line. I was an accounting major coming out of University of Illinois, worked for the big public, accounting consulting firms as at Deloitte, and, traveling 5 days a week and just hated it and felt like I wanted to do something different. I got into executive search, worked for kind of a large, global player for a couple of years. Just wasn't completely sold on that. And, many moons ago, ended up kind of making the switch to start my own business, sort of in the depths of the Dotcom crash, and kind of started there, and it's kind of been a slow, kind of steady-ish 20-year run, as part of Hirewell.
Incredible. So you started out working for another company as in their executive search team. Tell me a little bit what you said. It wasn't really for you. Didn't really feel it. What was it about it? Was it the culture of the company, how they did things? Because you obviously
So I was technically at two different firms. The first firm was a bigger one. The second one was a boutique firm. The executives were all people who had kind of 10, 15 years plus of experience. And what I saw is that they just, it was a slowing market back in the dot-com crash days. These people who had, allegedly had 15, 20 years of experience just really didn't have, they were so far removed from the day-to-day. They didn't have client relationships. They weren't really able to sell our way out of a challenging market. And so it just kind of made it clear, working for other people who were the quote-unquote experts, but, don't really do the job anymore. It wasn't for me. It was kind of sort of the ethos for what we're building as a firm, is how do we build a place that scales, solves our clients' problems, but ultimately the leaders continue to be successful.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. So as you were building this, you just realized you could do some things better. You had this vision. I felt like there was this pain point or this value opportunity. But you said you started it during the crash of the tech industry. I mean, there were just tons of people needing work. You probably didn't have a lot of people having hand signals to hire, or am I wrong?
Yeah. Listen, my firm went out of business. So it wasn't like this was some brave entrepreneurial, leap of faith. I mean, I either had to start my own business or, get out of the business completely. So, I thought there was the opportunity to do it better, to kind of fix an industry that was broken and very fragmented. But, truthfully, it took a lot longer to kind of get off the ground. Unexpected. It was a pretty good, solid, 2.5, 3 years before we were really on sort of stable, kind of solid footing. Because, that first year was really soft. I mean, this is a long, long time ago, but we started in May of 2001, and didn't have a whole lot of business because of the dot-com crash. And then you have September 11th hit, 4 months after we launched. That first year was tough. And, kind of the resilience and sort of the spirit of just kind of refusing to quit it or refusing to fold it in is kind of what, is what was instilled in me at a pretty young age. Cause, quite honestly, like the fear of failure, the fear of like admitting something's not going to work is just, terrifies me. And then that just kind of, gets me to just sort of do whatever it takes to kind of, achieve some success.
So, okay, this is a more existential question or like a psychological question, but a lot of people have a fear of failure. What is it that makes you push through and keep trying? Because there's a ton of people that won't try, won't start. Was it just desperation that you had to provide it? You had to come up with an income, or was there something?
No, I was, I was single at the time, no wife, no kids. So there's really nobody else. I mean, it's kind of just proving people wrong. Like my parents thought I was nuts to leave, a big, recognizable firm like Deloitte to do this. So, I mean, it's probably a lot of that, just like not like having to go back to my parents, say, oh, I was wrong. I screwed this up. Like I need to move back home, or I need money, or I need this or that. And so just again, the refusal to have it be, a failure, or, all the people when I left Deloitte, like who thought this was the best job in the world. And like, oh my God, why do you want to be a headhunter? That's crazy. Same thing. Like just that drive to just not admit I was wrong. I guess simple as that.
I love that. So everybody's going to want to know, like, whether they're in a contractor or an employee that wants to grow in their career, or you're a business owner and wants to hire the best talent. Give advice to all the listeners. We have a lot of people on both sides of that table. On both sides of the table, I should say. What advice would you give them to make, first of all, let's start with those to be recruited. What can they do to make themselves stand out, get the best earning? Is it something about, the profile on LinkedIn? I mean, like, where do you find people? What's the best way to make sure you're out there so that you get a lot of demand signals and make yourself have the best potential?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is the single biggest, change. I mean, I when I got into this business, like it was, LinkedIn didn't exist, email barely did. There were some companies I think that were still faxing, resumes. So it's kind of the dinosaur. But it was just the concept of a Rolodex was a lot more powerful back then because that's all people had. And so now it's all been digitized. But like, and in some ways it's been commoditized. It makes it very easy to be found. And that's sort of the bare necessity of what you need to do is kind of be able to be found. But it's much more important than that, especially in a market like this. And the power of relationships, the power of networking, like whatever you want to do to move up and progress in your career, whether it's your internal organization or do something else, like success is 100% driven by, people either above you or in other organizations caring about you and want to give you the chance to do something. So again, it's, anybody who's making a job change, I always say, hey, start in your current employer. Like, what are your opportunities to move up there? And the only way you move up is by being, valiant, hardworking, proactive, great employee. But like that, those same things will then make you attractive and desirable by other places. But again, by having those people know you, trust you, like you, and want to hire you, like that is the best way to always get a new opportunity.
Right. To just building real relationships with potential work. Tell us a little bit about what to look for on LinkedIn, for how to present yourself. Give advice, like when you're looking for somebody, you're like, is there some tried and true formulas or some good hacks you can advise on tips?
Yeah, there's a lot you can do. I mean, you want to strike the balance somewhere between being like, it's not exactly like the same as a resume, but it's very much a bio. So you want it to be, really articulate who you are, what you've done, kind of where you've been, and by kind of just demonstrating all those things. So it's just I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do, but I think like the best is sort of look to sort of people you aspire to be like, and it kind of copy theirs, for lack of a better way to put it. Like there's a whole cottage industry of people or places that will try to charge you for this sort of thing, and I'm very leery about that. But like I said, just by being able to build up good experiences and be found, it's the best way to do it.
That's so great. That's such a great idea. Just go find somebody whose career you admire and model it after them.
Yeah.
That's a really great idea. Do you think producing a lot of content on LinkedIn is helpful to like grow, optics? Does that actually help algorithmically firms like yours and companies find you?
It's interesting. I got, my firm, probably 5 years ago really leaned in heavily into content and not as like a corporate brand, even though, yes, we obviously wanted people to talk about Hirewell and sort of who we are and what we do, but really like lean in to do it themselves, because I think like building your own personal brand is, phenomenally important in anything you do, but anything that is like in the people business, right? And so, if the, again, the days of making 70 cold calls a day, like, is that the best thing to do? I personally don't think so. I mean, it depends on the industry, but like everything is sort of marketing and your own personal branding. So it's super vital to put out content and be seen as a thought and industry leader, because, there's plenty of studies that'll show like, by having a, name recognition or whatever, like somebody needs to see your name 3, 4, 5, 6 times before they really recognize it, remember it, and they're more apt to buy it. So whatever you can do to build.
That's super helpful. And in terms of a company that's trying to attract the best talent, what advice do you have? Hire you guys?
Yeah, but that's a simple answer, Lindsay. Just hire well, and we do the rest for you. But it's so much deeper than that, right? Like you need to kind of have a clear vision of who you are, where you're going, and then how you're going to build the team to get you there. These aren't like the most profound thoughts, but you'd be surprised how many places struggle with it. And, it really over the last 4 years has been such a drastic turns in the job market that it's tough because, 4 years ago, pre-COVID, market was going up steadily. And then all of a sudden, COVID hits and it's a big crash, and then it booms after that. And then it's gotten hit pretty hard again. And so, how do you maintain kind of a strong culture and a strong sort of, value prop as an organization and be able to share that vision with prospective employees of where you're going as a company, who are the people you are needing to get there, then how do you get them excited about joining you? And it's tough. And like I said, it needs to start at the top, but it needs to be sort of like believed and felt by everybody in the organization. Or, all right, like, times are going to be hard. It's not always perfect, but like, is there enough here that this is the type of place that like, it's going to be a good spot to work, and people are going to want to work there for 2, 4, 5, 10 plus years. And then, what are the reasons for that? It's typically satisfaction, career growth, strong potential to make strong compensation, enjoying their coworkers and all the different things that people care about. So you just have to build all of those things and not make it something where people are just going to, just want to jump the first sign of something better elsewhere.
So Matt, as you are in this stage, you've been around for how long has your company been incorporated? 20 years? More?
A little bit more in us.
Okay, so at this stage, how big are you guys?
So we've grown pretty rapidly over these last 3-4 years. We raised some outside investment from a company called Pride Tech. We've done a couple acquisitions. We've invested in technology to kind of further tech enable our processes. So globally, we're about 150 employees on basically 3 continents. We're primarily in the US, but we have people in Europe and in Asia. We do everything from executive search. We do kind of cross-functional team building where we help companies hire, like build out teams and kind of do major transformations. All of that is powered by a couple of the technology companies that we have, kind of help companies or help our team, utilize tech to be more efficient and engage, with clients in a better capacity. So, so it's kind of been a pretty big growth.
That's wonderful. And how about you? Did you end up with wife and kids? You were saying at the time you didn't have wife and kids.
Yeah, I do now. I mean, that's what happens in the course of 20 years. So yeah, I've got a wife and 2 teenagers. So yeah, excited.
Amazing. So tell us a little bit, I'd love to know what the market is like right now in terms of jobs. I mean, I know I have several friends who are looking for jobs and having a hard time. And the market, seems, obviously we've been going through some financial stress economically, but as a country, but what are you kind of seeing? And does it obviously depend on where you are and what industry, or maybe share some of the insights you have that are helpful to you?
Yeah, that's kind of the, quite literal $1 million question is like, what is going on in the market? And it's complicated. The, unemployment's still, near historical lows. I mean, I think going into probably 12 months ago is 3.4%, right? Historically, 5% is like what is expected for unemployment. We've been way below that forever. Over the past year, you keep thinking, are we in a recession? Are we not? And quite honestly, we haven't been, at least by the practical terms, by the, no contraction of GDP. If anything, GDP's been growing. But I think, so that's at the macro level. Like when you look at more like specific areas, it's not great, right? And so there has been a pretty hard hit area in specific sectors. Tech has been probably the biggest, like the world of sort of venture capital and companies that are raising a lot of money to grow, like that spigot has just been crushed. I mean, like the venture capital, numbers are down like 50% year over year. And like the access to capital has really made things challenging. And it's largely driven by obviously the drastic, rise in interest rates. So, again, it depends what you do. It's hard. Not, but we're a pretty diverse company. So we've got a group that does supply chain and manufacturing and recruiting, and that's been pretty strong. We have a group that does, sales and go to market recruiting. And again, that's been pretty strong because people are still traditionally hiring salespeople. But, and where that was a year ago or a year and a half ago is heavy, SaaS and tech companies. And it moved much more to, industrial and kind of more sort of old school industries, kind of, for lack of a better way to put it. So for short, like it can be challenging, and quite honestly, the area that's got hit the hardest is like recruiting and talent acquisition. So that's been like, we have a practice that places, corporate recruiters. We also provide outsourced recruiters or embedded recruiters for our clients. And, that was just an absolutely booming area up until kind of mid part of 22. And it's really, it's taken a hit. And so, again, if you're on LinkedIn, you'll see people like that are in kind of the recruiting, your kind of internal talent acquisition space. And it's been an area that's been a struggle because, companies built up these areas, heavily over the last 2 years. And then they just, at the first time of slowdown, they cut it because that's just an easy place to cut costs. And it's, it's painful because these are the ambassadors for a company that like help you hire all those people. And then just to turn around and fire, it's not great.
Yeah, that's super painful. Can people, I mean, obviously if the company's trying to hire, they're the ones that pay you for the talent acquisition.
So that's like the very old school way. And it's still probably the most common. So we engage clients in 3 ways. One is just that like you need to hire one person. We traditionally charge a percentage of salary that's on average 25 to 30% salary or against total compensation. And it's still a big part of what we do. But the 2 other areas that kind of like fastest growing, it's for companies that need to, the stuff that gets us most excited is companies that need to hire 10, 20, 30 or something. And those fees can get pretty exorbitant when you're charging those types of numbers. So we traditionally, it'll be more like kind of like an engagement fee to work with us and like a flat cost per hire is one way we do it. We'll also provide like dedicated, like our recruiters to work on behalf of your company where they, we call that like embedded or on-demand recruiting. They always charge a flat monthly cost for that. So you need to hire, like, again, if you need to hire 30 or something, you don't necessarily pay a fee for all of them, but you absolutely need the high touch consultative approach to help you. So that's what we set it up. So, it's anywhere from like, those are monthly retainers that they're paying us to work on their behalf. So, the flexibility is kind of what's caused us to grow a ton. And I think it's what's kept our clients working with us. We've got relationship clients we work with for 5, 10 plus years. And, because of our ability to sort of scale with them and provide sort of flexible, customizable solutions.
Amazing. Well, that's exciting and cool that you've gone through highs and lows and you've taken the journey. What advice do you have or any stories you have for an entrepreneur that's maybe in your industry, somebody who's getting started at any point, or even just someone who's starting a business? And like, do you have any like little gold nuggets you want to like have your teenagers listen to this podcast one day and hear about?
Yeah, I mentioned resilience before. Like that's like, it's number one. Try to solve what's the problem you're solving for. Like, can you actually do it and do it in a way that like, companies will pay you for, but it's never going to be easy. I'm a pretty understated person. Like there'll be people out there who love to tweet and post about their success and their growth. And, very few people have a straight up, straight, hockey stick growth. Like usually it's stops and starts, and it's going to be hard. Everything's going to be a little bit harder than you think it's going to be. There's things that are outside your control, largely the market or maybe the industry you're in. So it kind of just goes back to resilience. Just like have the belief in yourself, work at it, and just recognize, hey, you can do it. But but at the same time, like entrepreneurialism, it's not for everybody, because it's hard. Like it's you care about something so much, and like it's like, again, like back to what I said before, like you'll just work and kind of do whatever it takes for success. But like, that's not for everybody. And some people like it's easier to kind of work in a defined structure with less ambiguity. And you just have to kind of decide for yourself if you want and can kind of handle that, because the stress is real. Like I wish it was all easy. There's plenty of nights that, I lie in bed just kind of thinking, what I could do or how I could do things differently. And, and that's 20 years into it, right? But it's still, it kind of never stops.
So another point that I think would be helpful for listeners is like negotiating, either like, especially I think probably most of the listeners would be people that, would want to negotiate the best deal for themselves. Do you have any, after being in the middle of so many back and forth negotiations, do you have any advice on, for example, somebody wants to want and get a raise?
It's tough. I mean, there's very different schools on negotiation. I if I had to like sort of 9-box my strengths and weaknesses, truthfully, negotiation is it's not my number one strength. Like I'm kind of a compromiser by nature, and I try to find middle ground. I think it's made me good as a recruiter, because I think that's what the key to the key to being a good recruiter is just helping two sides sort of meet in the middle and making everybody work, right? Like there's always like cliches of like the sign of a good deal is when both parties aren't exactly happy, right? But like but like there's like the people who are good negotiators, they don't believe that, right? Like they want to win everything, and so like I said, it's personally not a strength. I mean, I believe, like I've always believed in the long haul, like you're in it to win the war, not to win kind of the individual battles. Totally. And so like you might lose one or two things here or there, but knowing that, all right, I'm going to win eventually, that's always been my philosophy. But it can be a long game, and that's not for everybody.
Yeah, it's funny. I also am like very compromising by nature, and really high agreeability, even though I have a strong personality and a bit of leadership positions, and I will state, what I think is right and everything. But generally speaking, it's like, I'm like, as long as we get the deal done, as long as we're working together, like for me, it's based on relational equity, and everyone being happy. And it's played such a strength in my career and in my interpersonal relationships for the most part. But do you ever run into situations where people, because they're so compromising, they are just leaving tons of value on the table, or they're missing, or they're kind of, do you find yourself kind of watching third party? You're supposed to be in behalf of kind of both parties winning, but do you ever see someone just like, oh, she's so undersold themselves and it's painful? And what do you see?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think one interesting thing, like, so, a lot of like the labor laws are at the state level, and, being in Illinois, it's a more of an employee friendly state, follows like California and New York on that. And so they changed like kind of salary history. Like you can't ask salary history here. They want you to post jobs, you want to post salary ranges. And like those have made a huge difference. Like, again, like recruiters were up in arms like 5-6 years ago. And that was a thing like, oh my God, we can ask somebody what their salary history is, how we're going to do our jobs. And like, you adapt, that's just the nature of it. But like, it's there's definitely a lot of issues with like gender and kind of racial equity. Like where you're at dictates what you typically get, and so it's hard to get out of like the stats have show that men are paid more than women. So like that, I'm not usually a fan of like the government stepping in for like to regulate certain things, but that's one where I think it was a pretty good one, where it just like you shouldn't be defined by where you're at. Now it goes the other end of the spectrum where people just like they see a salary range of 100 to 200K and they go, great, I want 200K, but like that doesn't mean you're worth that. Like it's based on your years and how you stack up internally and externally. for a role and for the various candidates for the job. And so you'll see some people shoot themselves in the foot by asking for something that they're just taking that warrant. So it's a little bit of both. It's frankly kind of more of that I think people underselling themselves. But then I have also seen some great things where companies will, they'll pay more than they have to or they should because the person is just kind of unrealistic. But they recognize, hey, I can't pay this woman or this person less than others just because they don't know their worth. So, I think that's me. They prove it.
That's nice to hear that they have that kind of integrity, generosity. Yeah. If somebody wants to get a job, can they reach out to Hirewell and be like, hey, here's my resume, here's my, consider me. I just recently met a new friend, and he just finished getting his master's degree in accounting. And he's just like, all right, and I was like, give me your resume, I'll pass it out to my friends. But what do you recommend? Do they go on? Is there a platform that they can just, actually apply? Or
you do it. It's Hirewell, HIREWELL.com. You can email it to contact@hirewell.com. Write us on LinkedIn, name it. We're out there. So we'd love to help.
Okay, amazing. And did they pay a fee when they're the one trying to find a job, or how does that work?
It's always, so our clients are the companies that are hiring. That's always kind of an important differentiator. But anybody who's asking job seekers to pay money for help, you need to run. You don't want to pay anybody to help finding a job.
2 years ago, I was like, I want to get on more for-profit boards. I spent my career in the nonprofit sector. A lot of nonprofit boards were giving all these services away for free. And at this point in my career, I had somebody invite me on a for-profit board, and I was like, this is way better. They pay everything. They give me, dividends paid. And the value was just higher. So I was like, I want to get on some more for-profit boards. So there was a third-party group that I paid, utterly useless, didn't make one introduction. I actually got myself onto 3 boards in the time frame. And I remember all the reviews of just disappointment.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. So you guys, you get paid by the person that's actually making the match from the employer side.
Correct.
And that's the way to go about it. They could just go online.
Yeah, so it does make it a little tough because really, clients are paying us to find people who are a pretty spot on match to what they hire for. So if you're looking to make a career pivot, or get into a new industry, recruiters probably aren't the best bet, or search firms aren't really the best bet. You should, really work on focusing your own network, people at various organizations that you're interested in.
Gotcha. But if you're trying to stay, what about somebody right out of school where they don't have a lot of experience, they just have school?
Yeah, it's typically, we're ours is either executive level or kind of mid-career is the most common. We have some clients who come for entry level, but your first job's the hardest to get. You just have to expand your network. You have to just kind of go through your university should be able to help you with, kind of career placement and things like that. So just you tap into alumni network is so that the route you want to go.
So executive level to upper management, mid-careers.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
That's helpful to know.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share? I'm mindful of the time. Thank you again for coming on the show. But is there anything else you want to share before you jump off?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Matt. Really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to learning more about Hirewell as I have companies I'm going to need to hire for.
I appreciate it, Lindsay. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Do you need help with the next steps for your financial plan? Think Capita. Capita is a financial network built around you. They have a team of financial advisors, CPAs, estate attorneys, Medicare providers, and Social Security experts to help you accomplish your financial goals. Call to schedule a complimentary consultation at 801-566-5058 or visit their website at www.capitafinancialnetwork.com. You can also check out their financial education podcast, The Financial Call, available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and YouTube.